Hi, I'm Miranda Kahn.
And I'm John Bachman. Coming up this hour on Newsmax Now.
A Newsmax exclusive and campaign checkup with the original GOP presidential candidate from this election cycle. Our very own Ed Berliner is here with all the highlights from his one-on-one with the Texas senator.
And the defense secretary today tells Europe to step it up. But is anybody listening as our allies continue to cut their contributions to our joint defense efforts? And we'll have a special look at the Newsmax new list of 100 most influential Christian leaders in America, including who's at the top of that list.
Welcome back again. I'm Miranda Kahn.
And I'm John Bachman. We'll start off this hour in Yemen, where Saudi Arabia now says they have restarted an air campaign against Houthi rebels there. Now the White House is chiming in. They say the job in Yemen is not done yet, and officials are urging for a diplomatic solution.
To try to resolve their differences politically.
Well, you can just in case the diplomatic plan does not work out, the U.S. has sent an aircraft carrier now just off the coast of Yemen. Its official mission is to keep trade routes open through the area, but some reports suggest otherwise. They say the warships are there to stop Iranian boats from supplying weapons to those Houthi rebels who have seized control of the Yemeni government. And while Yemen is crumbling, Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter is taking shot at Europe's defenses today. He says America can't do everything.
It has to have the military power to be a capable ally of ours. And we see that slipping. And it's got to turn around. It's not that they don't have the money to do it.
There you have it. Carter spoke to ROTC cadets at Georgetown University earlier today.
Back here in the U.S., the road to 2016 is starting to get a little bumpy. Now, billionaire donors, the Koch brothers, may be putting their weight behind several GOP candidates in the presidential race. Charles Koch tells USA Today that he and his brother have identified 5 contenders that they think are on the right track and have a good chance of getting elected. Their picks include Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Marco Rubio. But Koch says right now they're not supporting any one specific candidate. Several reports, though, say David Koch privately told people that Walker should be the next president. Speaking to the Des Moines Register, Walker says he's glad but a little surprised, and that right now he's just focusing on getting the support of regular Iowa voters.
And Captain. All right, we did have a story we're going to tell you about. Captain Kirk, William Shatner, wants to build a huge pipeline from Seattle down to California to bring California some much desperately needed water. But we'll leave that story aside for the time being because we want to bring in our own Ed Berliner.
That's a good teaser.
Yeah, good tease. We'll talk about it coming up. We want to bring in Ed Berliner, who's with us here now. And I don't think that came up in your recent interview with Ted Cruz, did it?
No, John, it didn't come up, John. It was a moment that we
That's why
perhaps
I had to get it
thought
in there
about.
because I knew you couldn't resist the bait. You would have to get your Shatner impersonation.
It's
in
too
there.
easy.
Of course I have
It's
to love
one
it,
of the
right?
easiest.
The last name Khan, I have to
Well,
like
of course.
Star Trek. That was awesome.
I almost for a moment there I thought about doing the yell, but I can hear our audio guys going, no, please don't do the Khan
please
yell.
don't.
Don't
Good
do the
idea.
Khan yell.
We will get that on the web as soon as
Yes,
we
we
possibly
will.
can. So teasy. All right, so you had this great sit down with Ted Cruz. We also spoke to him a couple of months ago. Back then, he was just about the only person in the race. Now he's got some competition. What did he say to you about who he feels like his greatest competition now is in the race?
I don't believe that Ted Cruz believes he has any real competition right now. Very honestly, he's so set in what he believes. He's a very pious man. He pushes the fact that he's very religious. He always pushes his vision for America. But the thing about Ted Cruz is he's a politician. Very nice man. We sat down and talked about cowboy boots for about the first 5 minutes.
Oh,
because
something
he's
else
from
you guys
Texas,
had
I'm
in
from
common.
Texas.
Big fan, yeah.
So we sat and talked about that, but he's very polished. He has his message down that he wants to get across, that he wants to lead America, that he wants to get rid of Obamacare, that he believes that he is the guy that can lead the country. But the thing that struck me was I had to stop and ask him, I said, what makes you the one that people who don't go to the far right, who are not evangelical, want to vote for you? Right. He said, I believe it's about American values. It doesn't make a difference about what you believe, but I do have the strong Christian beliefs, but it is still about where America needs to go. Very, very focused and very practiced, just like any good politician is who's on the stump right now.
Did you think he was too scripted, though?
In some ways, yes. There were some things that he said that were very scripted that we've heard before, but that's part of his message. That's what any good politician will do.
Let's take a listen and see what we're talking about.
Sure.
America's fundamentally a center-right country. And if you look at the values I'm running on, live within your means, don't bankrupt our kids and grandkids, follow the Constitution. Those are basic common sense. It's only in Washington, D.C. that those are considered radical or extreme. We could go to any state in the Union, we could go to the bluest state in the Union, get a room of 100 people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and most of them would agree with those common sense propositions. That's what we've got to get back to, because it's what career politicians in Washington have forgotten as the basic values America was founded on.
Then how do you convince them? Because you know full well that they're going to say, you're too far right for me, Senator, it just doesn't fit, and you've got to get those Democrats and those midpointers, if you will, to vote for you.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You're right. The mainstream media will howl at any Republican, whoever the nominee is, and they'll do everything they can to characterize whoever the Republican is as extreme. Look, what I'm defending are common sense conservative principles, and I can tell you, when I ran for Senate in Texas, the coalition that came together to support us was that old Reagan coalition. It was conservatives and libertarians and evangelicals and young people and Hispanics and women and Reagan Democrats. I think the stakes in this election in 2016, they've never been higher. I think our country's in crisis. It is now or never. I don't think we've reached the point of no return yet, but we're close.
Well, Ted Cruz's discipline on message, as you mentioned, Ed, is inspiring in some ways.
It's what he believes in, and he wants to stay in it. Because, look, we're 19 months out from the election. What Ted Cruz and many believe is stay on point. You want to hit a certain number of things, and you're going to keep drilling it home so that when they do start moving into issues and other things, people already know what the backstory is. And I believe that's really what he's trying to do.
But one of the things that John brought up yesterday is, you know, we're hearing Marco Rubio sit here and kind of criticize Hillary Clinton, saying she's so yesterday. And then we just heard Cruz sit there and refer to Reagan, going back to the basics. Doesn't that kind of create some conflict here if we're talking about looking into the future?
No, sure it does. But again, for many conservatives, using Ronald Reagan is the perfect base because that's what they want to hear. So that's what Cruz uses to go forward. You know, Rubio is like everybody else right now. They're all hammering away at Hillary. It's the popular thing to do. My question is always, why don't you talk more about issues? But they will say that bashing Hillary right now is the right thing to do because she's laying back and she's not pushing forward. So it's a good time. If you're going to attack, get them when they're down, get them when they're quiet. And Hillary right now is almost uncampaigning, if you will, in many ways. So it's easy to take a shot at her. He really doesn't take any shots, but I did ask him during the interview, which we'll hear later on in the show, do you believe that Hillary Clinton is a dangerous candidate? Do you think she's as dangerous as some people believe she is?
Was he candid?
Yes, he was.
Don't tell us what he said.
I'm not going to tell you,
Right.
but he was.
I think a lot of folks have underestimated Ted Cruz at this stage in the game. He has done a lot of things that have been very smart in terms of digital work, gathering names, gathering contacts, people that he can talk to. When we met him in Jacksonville not too long ago, he was having a very intimate meeting like Hillary Clinton is publicizing, although he was doing it behind closed doors with just regular folks, getting a chance to listen to them and hear what they had to say. A lot of people discounted Ted Cruz when he jumped into the Texas Senate race. He came from behind and beat Ted Duers. He was not supposed to win that race either. So folks who might be discounting or dismissing Ted Cruz like John McCain,
I wouldn't discount him.
You can't.
I wouldn't discount his message because I think that his message will be heard over a lot of the others because he's a good debater. He stays on message. The passion in his voice and the stage presence is really something that you get when you get close to Ted Cruz. Love him or not, that's what he is, and he's going to continue to stay that way. I don't think he'll ever change.
And we can see that full interview
beginning at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Midpoint.
It's almost like he's got a photographic memory when he can ramble off those lines like that about getting America back, and that's his message. So we'll hear a lot of that.
Well coached, and that's what good politicians are.
Well, he's a master orator, well coached, or just talent. We'll see. Let's see. Much more coming up. Make sure you can stay tuned here to Newsmax TV. Ed Berliner will be with us at 2 o'clock. We're coming back more with more Newsmax Now right after this.